Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back for another YgoPro duel video. Eidolons featuring Windwitches and artifacts. This is like an excellent anti-meta deck, since it kinda counters the current OCG metagame. You know, the current OCG metagame is pretty much Zodiac Beast featuring everything. So heavily based on the extra deck bar Infernoids, right? But this deck is super strong and super consistent since there are so many searches to search out, well, so many ways to search out Alistair, for example. And Dimensional Barrier is such a great card against the current format, also for the OCG as well. And Artifact Sanctum into Scythe is a very strong play against a lot of decks, mainly also against Zodiac Beast, to completely block them out of their extra deck, so giving you an extra turn to establish your own board, since that's the biggest strength of this deck. Going first, again, like pretty much every deck, going first, establish a Crystal Wing, a free Crystal Wing, thanks to your Ice Bell. Windwitch Ice Bell is pretty much a one-card Crystal Wing, an indestructible Crystal Wing, by the way. And yeah, if you have your Alistair or Terraforming or your Field Spell, you can also Fusion Summon for a Raideen. And yeah, next turn, possibly go for that Markaba as well, using your opponent's light monsters from their grave if you're playing against something like ABC. But this deck is kind of like an anti-meta deck, but definitely very strong. So let's see a few example duels. Alright, first example, and I think I get to start. So playtesting against the format, well, playtesting against the meta, and immediately opening with Ice Bell. Ice Bell is pretty much like the tour guide of the deck, well, the speed droid Terra top of the deck. You know, the one-card Crystal Wing, with the only downside is that during that turn you use the effect, eventually use the effect and go for the indestructible Crystal Wing. You can only, yeah, special summon wind monsters after that, so only Raideen is an option, but you know, these Eidolon monsters, well, the Eidolon fusion card does have the advantage that you can fusion summon using materials from both players' graves, so banishing the Windwitches, which are of course wind, to go for Raideen. The weaknesses of this deck is that, well, the first big weakness here, as you saw, well, it could be a weakness, is mass destruction cards like Twin Twister, removing the back row. Well, you can still chain your Dimensional Barrier, of course, and yeah, Sanctum as well, or Scythe, you know the deal, but mainly like Kaiju Slumber, Raigeki Darkhold, those mass destruction cards can definitely cripple your field, unless, of course, you have a live Markaba, you know Markaba, that can it's like a Solemn Judgment with attack points. You can just discard the appropriate card, well, the card that you want to negate. So let's say the opponent activates a spell, you can discard one of your own spells to negate your opponent's spell. So like a Dark Bribe. But anyway, so I was able to win, but yeah, again, the indestructible Crystal Wing coming through, right? Indestructible by Darkhold, Raigeki, Slumber as well, and that's too good against Zodiac Beasts. Next matchup against ABC, this deck should be better compared to ABC, well, yeah, for obvious reasons, due to all the floodgate cards like Artifact Scythe and Sanctum into Scythe, Dimensional Barrier, of course, the tremendous amount of back row, and of course your Raideen. Raideen being a Book of Moon during both players' turns, prevent your opponent from getting off his field spell. But on the other side, and one of the weaknesses of this deck, of this Windwitch Eidolon deck, is not going first. Again, combating your opponent's back row, your opponent also having a lot of back row, and yeah, the risk of running into your opponent's Dimensional Barrier can cripple this deck. But on the other hand, you do play a lot of yeah, floodgate-ish traps on your own, so to like bypass one turn, right? So Sanctum into Scythe, for example, or Dimensional Barrier can block your opponent, well, prevent your opponent from OTKing you, so you can still have your next turn. Alistair is like the Senju of this deck. Raideen can put him face down, and when he's flipped face up, you can just get an extra search, so that's awesome. Here, activate Super Rejuvenation to draw 4 in the end phase, but it's not going to matter too much. One of the floodgates, one of the best floodgates in the game, Vanity's Emptiness, blocking my opponent out of the duel. Well, Now he's forced to attack, but prevent the Bujin Tsukuyomi to discard his whole hand, so he does not have the 3 targets needed to go for ABC Dragon Buster, but, well, with this card advantage I can't lose, right? So go for multiple fusion summons, go for Markaba as well, use Radine to put my Alistair face down, flip it face up again to get another Surge. So good, all the free pluses thanks to the Eidolons, and yeah, go for the big ass boss monsters, both Markaba and Radine. Definitely one of the, at least definitely the MVPs of the extra deck here. This is like a perfect example of yeah, how to counter this deck. Like at the start, which is of course something I want. I want to establish my board of big monsters like Crystal Wing, like my Markaba maybe, or Radine, together with my Floodgate traps. But yeah, Maxi. Okay, so I think I had to give my opponent like a +2 out of the Maxi, and I go for my level 7 Synchro fast clearing, I believe the name is. You know, the guy that can negate monster effect, so that's one of the reasons why I went for it. Again, giving the opponent a few pluses, but I think it was worth it since I was able to search out Icebell previously again to possibly go for, yeah, another, at least, yeah, possibly go for Crystal Wing during my next turn if the opponent is able to get rid of my field, which I wasn't expecting too much out of this field, but again, he reveals another Maxi and Strike as well, so that's game over. Maybe I would have been able to go for a game like Burn Damage with a level 7 Synchro, but again, the Ghost Ogre followed up by the Solemn Strike was just too much. Zodiac Beast. The opponent gets to start, and you know, like the regular shenanigans, and eventually should be able to, at least I should be able to end with Drancia and the Daigusto Emerald. Well, pretty much like the standard opening move of Zodiac Beasts, right? This is, by the way, the Kaiju variant. That's an okay start at all. Yeah, double back row, and you know, biggest weakness of this deck is just, yeah, activate your plays and yeah, run into their back row. So eventually I'm going to use my Cyclone to banish one of his cards, I believe the Strike indeed, go for Markaba, but sadly I don't have a monster in hand to negate his Drancia. Maybe he would have made a mistake not using Drancia immediately, but I don't see any reason why not. So yeah, I can't win this one. That's so hard for this deck. If the opponent is able to get like a Drancia and multiple back rows, it's hard to come back. So that's one of the reasons why I might main deck like Dark Hole maybe, or Swords of Concealing Light. Well, you know, those cards to prevent your opponent from using, or yeah, cards like Drancia or getting off Drancia. Anyway, this should be one of the last tools I can get to start. Definitely one of the power plays. This deck has the first turning indestructible Crystal Wing paired up with Radine as well. So the opponent's going to activate Terraforming, and he reveals the Eclipse. Well, Eclipse is one of the better outs against this deck, but yeah, they don't get rid of the monsters. So thanks to Strike, and can prevent my opponent from establishing a field, can get to draw into like yeah, a Sanctum and Barrier. So this is already game over. And run into a Dimensional Barrier. Okay, no fusion summons, so I think I can bring it down to like 500. Indeed, 500 life points left, and yeah, with all these Floodgates cards, this is instant game over. So that's where the power of this deck lies. You know, all these Floodgates is a super strong anti-meta deck against the current OCG format, like a lot of Zodiac Beasts, ABC, Infernoids as well. But yeah, you're playing so many yeah, anti-meta cards, and on top of that, yeah, this deck can definitely OTK you out of nowhere with all the multiple fusion summons as well. Wonderwand, yeah, last tool. Wonderwand is like a nice deck in this deck. Alistair, well, you know that the Eidolon yeah, polymerization can also banish cards from your grave, so like normal summon your Alistair, equip Wonderwand to get like yeah, 2 draws, you know, Pot of Greed, and then just fusion summon by banishing the Alistair from your grave, and then get it back, you know, the shenanigans of the Eidolon fusion spell card. So yeah, Wonderwand is like a nice stack in this deck. Only at 2. 3 seems a bit too much. But yeah, anyway, I was able to use, at least, yeah, establish my Scythe, Artifact Scythe, and Markaba as well. Extremely strong against a lot of decks, negating, yeah, possibly negating the opponent's, yeah, mass destruction spells like Slumber, like Raigeki, and yeah, if you can pair it up with Sanctum or Dimensional Barrier, you can lock your opponent out of the duel, at least for 1 turn, and it's most of the time enough to, yeah, go for game during your next turn, or yeah, establish a big port so you have like pretty much full control out of the duel. So this is currently my deck list. Feel free to leave suggestions if you have any. I definitely want to try out Starlight Road because of those multiple yeah, destruction cards, Raigeki Dark Hole for example, Slumber. So Starlight Road is something that I definitely want to try out. Twin Twister maybe, but I'm preferring Galaxy, yeah, I'm preferring the Cyclone in the main deck over that. Okay, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching, and feel free to leave a comment or a like if you enjoyed the video. Lithium signing out. Peace.